experience as an attorney. But the other thing is, how do you deal with, we've been sued as a board a number of times, and I can tell you lawsuits are like plums. They fall out of trees. But how many times have we been held personally liable? How many times have there been punitive damages? That's a step where you're cloaked in a level of immunity as a board member, a level of it. But if you go outside certain parameters, you get hit. Those aren't easy parameters to get past, the reason being that under the law, the concept is, if you start every day giving personal damages, personal liability to people on boards, nobody's going to be sitting up here. So there's a certain amount of protection the law gives you to prevent that. But the judgment ultimately, the verdict ultimately, went beyond that immunity and even went one step further and hit punitive. And this is 6 people that either had a real bad day or had a real clear view in their minds after 2 very, competent law firms went at it with these poor people jammed up in the middle, but went at it and laid out their evidence. And this was the conclusion that almost as many people as are on the committee came to that don't even know the man and presumably don't have any interest either in having him leave their town for whatever reasons there are, or for some reason or another supporting him. These are, jury of your peers are supposed to be a jury of your peers. They're somewhat independent arbiters of the truth. Arbiters of the fact.
I would never debate with you the law because of your level of expertise. But we do have the town moderator from Mansfield here, and while he did not give a written input, I'd love to hear how the town of Mansfield feels about their town manager.
Well, if we hold on a second, we'll get there in just a second. Does anybody else at the table have a comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
I wish you'd consider something. We're hiring a town manager. You said at the beginning of your remarks before we get into...
Uh-oh, you're not going to quote me back to myself, are you?
No, I would say that would take me a half hour to do. And I do that to the townspeople. He said all of us have a scar on our back, but we need to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps a mistake was made, and maybe they went overboard and the jury found it. I thought there was an appeal process too, but I'm an engineer, civil engineer. I don't know too much about the law, but I think we're forgetting something. We're not trying the case here. If he has to pay or it's appealed or something, it's a very unfortunate circumstance, I'm sure. But he certainly wouldn't hold that against him. He had 10 years of service to the town. It was stellar. The town did very well. He's spoken very highly by a number of people that I know personally, professionally, and I go by that. And I think when we look at the skills that this town needs and where we want to go forward, it's in labor negotiations, it's in fiscal management, it's in all those things, health benefits that we're trying to get control of. The town comes first. His baggage comes with him. We all have baggage. And so I'm hoping that you consider those facts rather than just concentrate on this legal issue that he has to solve one way or another. And I know that the townspeople in Mansfield, the ones that I know, certainly spoke highly of him. Very unfortunate, but we all have scars on our back, and the time to move forward is now. And so I'd rather not, I'm hoping that you reconsider in the sense that you don't look at this court case as being the ultimate test of why he couldn't come here and work in this town and really assist the townspeople and the taxpayers and trying to get some of our costs under control and be the best administrator that we can hire. And I think that's what he can be. There's just too much commonality with Mansfield and Middleborough as far as the management of the town, and what he's been able to accomplish, I think, has been very stellar.
So you don't see, and I'm just trying to make sure I understand. You don't see a downside to the potential down the road. I mean, he's your man who's going to pretty much hire and fire. You don't see a problem here.
I see somebody who's been stung, and like you said, you learn from that. And you make sure you cover yourself, and I'm sure next time something comes up, there'll be a legal paper trail versus whatever actually did occur in Mansfield. Okay. Experience is a teacher, and he's been taught, and so I think that he could really benefit this town.
Do you have anybody else?
This is not a criteria for hiring somebody. But the fact that Mr. D'Agostino, nobody's moving to Middleborough. The fact that Mr. D'Agostino on a major emergency would be here in about 15 minutes, flying down 495, as opposed to Mr. Costello, who's going to take an hour going back roads, and
Well, that's actually, you say that's not a criteria. Personally, I think that is a criteria. I don't know what anybody else thinks.
I do too.
I mean, I'd prefer a town manager that moves here. I don't know if anybody else.
I feel the same way. I feel that he has to be in a situation where he lives here, so any kind of decisions the town manager makes affects him just as much as it affects us. And if he does not live here, he can make a decision and then go home. And he lives under the rules of the town where he lives. And I find that upsetting.
So I wouldn't poo-poo what you said. I mean, I think it's a valid.
Yeah.
It's not the only one.
It's not even in the top 5 for me.
No, but it's somewhere in the atmosphere of the interviewing process.
Right. So Dick Tinkham goes to ask him Mr. Costello a question about water. He gets a blank look. He asks Mr.
Units.
Cieglo asks a question about wastewater. Mr. Costello gives him a blank look. There's just too many things that he hasn't done.
Well, I disagree with that, Steve, because he does have interaction regarding the sewer district, and he indicated that he had water rate experience. I'm not sure if it was in Hingham or if it was in Watertown, but he does have the experience in that. Maybe not managing it on a day-to-day basis, but I would question that with anybody, any of these candidates, because that's one of the criteria of a town manager. That he is in charge of the day-to-day operation. So you can't hold that against any one of them. And, I just felt Mr. Costello had a strong financial background in economic development philosophy, and I think that's what Middleborough is looking for.
Well, I see Mr. Costello having an interest in economic development, but I don't see any projects big enough to warrant that book learning as proof in the field, where I do see Mansfield's development being something that's demonstrable. And on the financial side, Mr. D'Agostino said he's found no reason to have an override, and that they hadn't had one. They had debt exclusion. So, I mean, you can't get much more fiscally conservative than that. He manages to the revenue stream. And, again, this is challenging economic times. We want somebody that can live within the budget that we have rather than burdening the citizens of Middleborough with a tax rate like Hingham's. That's a residential town. The people, this is not a knock in any fashion, but they make more money than we do on average, and maybe they can afford the tax rate. I just would hate to see that philosophy come to Middleborough.
It's a fair assessment.
Do you have any more comments?
After you have the people speak, will we have the right to speak again?
You always have the right to speak.
All right, then why don't we have anybody who needs...
I'm going to try something here for a moment, and I'm going to be tentative on it. I figure we'll give 10 minutes to start. Let's see how it goes. What I'd like from the audience, if they would, anybody who wants to do this and stand up and make a comment, I'm more than happy to hear the comment, but I'd like to hear it in this context. I'd like to know which one of the 3 candidates you would like. And I'd like to know it in the context of the positive attributes of that particular candidate. List them. I'd like so-and-so because I think they have A, B, C, and D. This is not a tear-down session. This is not a negative, this guy's bad because of this, that, and the other thing. I want to know the positive attributes you see and who it is you'd want based on those positive attributes. If I start hearing the negative, I'll ask you to please shift to the positive, but I don't want to be hearing the negative of other candidates or a particular candidate. I want to know what the positive ends are of the individual. So if anybody would like to get up to the microphone and speak, I'd ask that you give your name and where you live, and we can try this for about 10 minutes and see where we go with this. If anybody would like to do that, feel free. Well, you want to stand up, sir? Is that okay? You got to get to the mic.
Which one are we using?
Either one.
Actually, is this one live up front?
Sure.
I didn't come here tonight with the idea of speaking.
Sir, you're
but
Bob Sarkay
my name is
from
Robert
Mansfield.
Sarkay. I'm a shopkeeper here in downtown Middleborough.
And you are from Mansfield?
I am from